game. We're pretty set here.
I've helped his parents wash dishes.
Well, here we go. On the left, we have P. Sully, Patrick Sullivan, the master of red spells. He used to live in Jersey, now lives in California, and he flew out here for this tournament. He's playing
back to his stomping grounds.
Back to his stomping grounds. He's playing a red deck, unsurprisingly. I'm playing it today. I'm playing a red deck tomorrow as well. On your right, you have Stephen Miggels. Stephen is playing Cobblade, similar, very, very similar to Jerry's list.
The background there, that's Andrew Tank Rivara. He recently filmed a movie that did very well at the Sundance Film Festival.
Really?
Got in second place in its category.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's cool to know that there's a Magic player who did that.
Yeah. Also a very good player. Plays from time to time. Not really into the sanctioned scene so much, but drafts a lot with very good players and does very well. So
so for you, those of you just joining us, I'm Gavin Verhey here with Jacob Van Lunen, and this is round 7 of the Standard Open Series here in Edison, New Jersey. And we've seen a lot of exciting things today, and right now we're going to see something pretty exciting. We're going to see red versus Cobblade, and we'll see how fast this goes. If it ends quickly, we'll try and switch to another one of the matches, but who knows how this is going to go. Sometimes the red games aren't always a quick pace match. Sometimes, they'll be like, okay, burn spell,
they lose, yeah.
well, sometimes they lose. Sometimes they have a quick pace match. Other times it's just a long game attrition war where they're just trying to find the right time to get around counter magic. So we'll see what happens. Looks like Sullivan's hands. I see Teetering Peaks, Lightning Bolt, and Sullivan says, "Bring it."
Steve plays a colonnade. Now, I was advising Steve to only play 3 colonnades because Steve really likes his manlands and was saying, I'm going to play 4.
I'm a sucker for the colonnades myself.
He's like, the hands where I draw 1 versus drawing 0 are just like so dramatically different with the way games can play out that I'd like to play for 4 of this card.
Absolutely. I mean, being able to fix your mana is insane. There's Spike Shot Elder. When Patrick was in the booth earlier, what he told us is he felt like he needed the Elders in his deck because he just wanted to have more 1-drops. It felt like the games where he had a 1-drop, he could be so much farther ahead than anybody else. And, because he gets around Mana Link on turn 2 or whatever. And in this case, he got the kind of draw he wanted where he has a 1-drop. No, it's no Goblin Guide, but he's still going to sit out there and potentially plink away on cards like Squadron Hawk as the game goes along. And,
I think Steve's probably going to get sort of body in mind here. That'd be my guess. You never know, though. Feast and Famine. I think I'm like 0% on knowing what story people are going to get.
I think you said to get sort of body in mind every single time so far.
Really? No way.
I think so. No, you're right. There was one time in the Rabbits matchup where you were
I wasn't here.
You weren't here for the Rabbits matchup?
No.
Oh, Glenn, who was like, he's going to get the Feast and Famine, he's going to get the body, and he actually got the body in mind.
Yeah, I think it's just...
body in mind is a sweet card. Getting the token is so important against the beatdown decks, Oh, and Burst Lightning on Stoneforge Mystic, and in crashes Elder for 3. So preordained most likely from Steven.
Yeah. That seems...
Preordained, he turns it around. Looks at his top 2 cards. I think, is that a land? I'm not certain. Whatever it is, he puts them on the bottom. And picks up a new card.
I'm excited to see Steve in feature match area. This is his 2nd match that he's had featured so far this tournament.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, he's he's a player who deserves it too. He's very good at Magic.
Yeah, it seems like he's pretty accomplished after not playing for so long. He just did so well at the last Grand Prix.
Yeah, every time he comes back, he just does incredibly well. So somebody hands him a deck and he just takes off and does really well.
Yeah, it's good to know there are those naturally skilled players left in the game. All right, so
he also plays a ton of Magic Online.
Oh, well, that certainly helps. Okay.
It's not just natural talent. It's
sure. Okay. So he's not. When you say sanctioned tournaments, you weren't including online. Which
he's not including online tournaments, but yeah, he online PDQs and does all that. He just works so much.
Is he watchable? You said it earlier. What's his username online?
The Bad Man.
The Bad Man. All right, so you're watching The Bad Man against Patrick Sullivan.
Yeah. And if you've ever played the Pauper Queues, then you have certainly lost many matches to The Bad Man.
Almost certainly. So Patrick cracks a land, turning on his Spike Shot Elder, which will do some pinging action sometime on Steven's turn.
Right there in the background, we see Ashok Chituri there. He is one of the 2 players who innovated that mud deck.
Yeah, he's going to be playing it tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Yep. So if you're watching at home and you're coming tomorrow, when you sit across from him, you know what he's playing.
He's pretty good at it. It might not matter.
Okay, and Stagger Shock comes down. Stagger Shock, I think, is a pretty underplayed card in recent times. It was really hyped when it came out, and it showed up in a bunch of red decks, but it hasn't seen as much play recently. And Stagger Shock.
And there, it's basically a char.
Yeah, absolutely. That you can divide up, you know.
Yeah.
And Spike Shot Elder eats it, but. And he cracks that air.
Steve goes down to 12 here. Now, Steve's lands have actually dealt him a reasonable amount of damage so far this game. It's another white source. Now, what Steve really wants, that just kind of stops the red deck in its tracks, is Gideon.
Gideon is good. Obviously, the one Baneslayer Angel isn't too shabby.
Oh, yeah, the Baneslayer is what he...
what he really
wants.
But he'll settle for a Gideon Jura, which is definitely like it just stops their attacks, and the fact it can become a 6/6 so quickly is just huge. Like if it can turn a game around, you go turn 5 Gideon, turn 6 Colonnade attack, that's 10 right there. All right, well Jace, maybe not exactly what he was looking for, but it'll help him find what he's looking for. Picks up 3 cards.
Steve's gonna brainstorm. Steve realizes, you know, I don't care if he aims a bolt at this Jace. I'd rather it not go at my face. I'm at 12. You know, I'll take a brainstorm out of it now.
Right.
Hopefully get him to spend a card.
I mean, brainstorm gain 3 life. I think is pretty reasonable for Steven here. I mean, a lot of players are really tempted to play around the bolt, but you know, like you said, you'd rather have the Jace eat the bolt at this point than you.
Yeah.
So he puts some cards back and passes his turn. So that's, so he's got a Day of Judgment in his hand. That's the only card I can really make out from this vantage point. Stagger Shock is sent back at Steven and knocks him down to 10 life.
Yeah. You gotta see what Pat can muster up here. Like, Pat could just play, like, I don't know if he has a summons package in his deck, but...
So there's a Spike Shot Elder. And it pings him. Drops him
Steve down to 9.
9. I think it's really interesting. Patrick is doing a lot of his effects main phase.
Yeah, I mean, he's taking advantage of the fact that Steve has his mana tapped on his main phase. And Pat's, I'm an old school red player in a lot of ways.
And
yeah, Steve's just getting tons of brainstorms. And I mean, he's at 9, but having this Jason play for 2 turns is something that's pretty good at getting you back into a game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that Jace is going to be huge. Oh, and so he Day of Judgments away that Spike Shot Elder. Yeah, I mean, Patrick had the opportunity to potentially Stagger Shock the Jace and then Elder the Jace, but in his head, he's like, I just got to go for the kill. I mean,
yeah,
you can't
trying
waste,
to go for the throat.
Right, you can't waste 3 points of damage on that Jace right now. You just have to go for it. And he's considering his options now. I thought I saw another mountain in Patrick's hand, but I wasn't totally sure. He's got a lot of cards sitting there.
I think he's got. I mean, he has enough in his hand to.
All right, 2 bolts, dropping Steven to 3, and then he passes back. So sitting at a precarious 3 life, those fetch lands certainly not helping his life total at all.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting.
All right, so he Fate Seals Patrick, and Steven's thinking.
I'm interested to see what's in Pat's hand. Steve has Baneslayer, so...
Well, if there's any card to pull him out of it, this is the one, right?
Yeah. Leave his opponent with that spell.
All right, there's Baneslayer. All right, Patrick.
Pass the turn.
What do you got? So he looks at his card, considers his options. What did he leave? It's the Koth of the Hammer. It seems to be the card that Steven left on the top of the library.
Yeah.
And Patrick packs him in.
Packs him in to the Jace Baneslayer.
Wow, looking pretty good for Patrick there, but as Baneslayer Angel tends to do against red decks. The one Baneslayer Angel. How fortunate. Now, if that were an Inferno Titan.
Steve says to his opponent, I'm happy I drew that one up.
Yeah, obviously, right. If you're going to draw a one up against deck, Baneslayer against Burn is about the best one you can draw. So.
On post board, I think Steve may have additional
Is that
Baneslayers.
kid dancing in the background? That was so awesome.
Let's see what Pat has here. Pat might just bring in Marker Mutinies. That's a good way of dealing with Baneslayer
Right.
Angel. But, I mean, Steve did just say it was a one-of.
Right.
And Pat probably believes him. There's no reason not to. But
Right.
Pat also doesn't know if Steve's bringing in
Or
more.
maybe it's a sick magic. Well, it's a one-of, except he actually, could have 4 and doesn't want to bring in a Marker Mutinies. There's this potential game that's going on, but
Yeah.
I just don't think you can afford to bring in Mark against that deck, just because it has so many dead targets. I mean, if you steal a dude with a sword, it doesn't even do anything for you because you don't get the sword trigger. So Patrick clearly not happy about that Baneslayer Angel.
Yeah. And a Baneslayer Angel can put a damper on any red player's day. Steve is not a player that I would be surprised to see do well. Now, one thing that's really interesting about Steve is that Steve, most of his magic is cube drafting.
You can actually learn quite a bit, I think, from cube drafting. I think it's underrated.
Yeah, you learn a lot about playing constructed and a lot about playing limited.
Especially building decks. I found that you can learn so much about the deck building process from building cubes, because essentially every time you cube draft, you're building a constructed deck, more or less.
Yeah.
Or at least when you're drafting the best decks.
Steve is one of those people who just wins. That's what he does. He's just a winning machine. Our cube is actually located at his house, our shared cube.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So he must use it a lot then.
And fun fact about Steve is that Steve actually cannot lose while the song Stranglehold is playing. For the record, yeah, I think he is something like 42-0 now while Stranglehold is playing.
He should start bringing his iPod to tournaments.
Yeah, well, he's not sure if it works like that.
Oh, sure.
It's on one of his cube mixes, so we've heard a lot of Stranglehold, and he can't lose. He's lost matches where Stranglehold is played. It's the game where Stranglehold is played that he's invincible. We've convinced him to bring the iPod with Stranglehold to the Pro Tour. He's qualified for Japan, so.
Be like Kibler, listen to it before every match. It works.
Yeah, so he owes you 13.
And the players shuffle up.
7 back.
And draw their opening hands. Let's see. From Patrick's hand, we've got some lands, a Koth, I think 1 or 2 lightning bolts. Steven is taking a mulligan pretty hastily there.
Yeah, I mean, Steve mulliganing on the draw. He's probably not too happy playing against a red deck race mulligan on the draw like this, but
yeah, I mean, he needs every resource he has, but if you don't have the resources in your opening hand, you just have to take that mulligan.
It's tough, like you really just have to go down, and it's like losing the play here, like having to be on the draw in this game too, like being on the draw against a red deck when you're playing a bunch of like 2-drops that can be like arc trailed, that's dangerous.
All right, well, Patrick giving his opponent the death stare, and they look like they're about ready to draw his opening hand again. See if these 6 cards are any better than the last ones. Do you know what's in his sideboard? We never got deck lists, but do you know what like anti-red cards you could have potentially brought in?
As far as his board, the way it was set up, the last time I saw, he had extra Baneslayer Angels.
Okay.
So that's something we can expect. He also has he has more burn spells. He has bursts.
Okay. Those will be pretty important in this matchup, although Sullivan didn't seem to go the creature route, but he did just draw a plated Geopede. In Steven's hand, I'm pretty sure I saw a lightning bolt there. So Patrick did bring in those mark immunities. He's got one sitting in his hand right now.
The mark immunities are pretty good against the Baneslayers.
I mean, against Baneslayer, it is quite the excellent card to draw. And yep, there goes Stoneforge Mystic. Now Steven already has Sword of Feast and Famine in his hand this time, so I think he'll be safe on what card you name.
I think it's going to be Sword of Body and Mud. Actually, it's probably just going to be Basilisk Scholar.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be the collar, right? Assuming he has it, which I'm sure he does. He's playing red with Spark Mages. Nope, he goes for the Sword of Body in mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, Steve's really good, and right now the collar's not really that good. I mean, it's not like he's siding in the Spark Mages here.
Sure.
You know, all of his guys just have one power.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about it for the life gain, but I mean, if you don't think it's going to be that threatening, a couple points, it's true, especially if you think you're going to be facing down.
You're dumping the mana into it, and then your opponent has so many burn spells.
Right. They just pay one and negate all your hard work.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, by the time that gets online and starts doing really great things on like a Gideon Juror or something, it's going to be later in the game, and Steven might just be able to find another copy by then. So kills that Stoneforge Mystic. In comes Goblin Guide revealing Mana Leak, I believe.
That's what it looked like to me also.
And Patrick considers his plays and passes the turn.
It's a weird thing when you reveal Mana Leak off a Goblin Guide, so then your opponent knows you have it.
There's an interesting discussion with when you reveal a card that can kill a Goblin Guide off a Goblin Guide, then do you attack with your Goblin Guide the next turn? But perhaps that's best reserved for in-between games. Steven goes for a Preordain here.
It's a good idea. I mean, he really just wants to draw like a bolt for this guide. If he has the other blue source in his hand, then he can pass the turn with Mana Leak up, and then next turn get a bolt for the guide, or a burst for the guide.
Right.
And then, you know, the game's not too hard to win from that point forward.
Right. I mean,
he probably has like, you know, with the combination of Gideon and Baneslayers that he has post board, I wouldn't be surprised if he had one of those two cards in his hand.
He definitely has a Gideon. I saw one earlier.
Okay.
And I mean, Sullivan's plan is he's got a Koth in his hand, and he really wants to resolve it. Oh, Steven does not have the second blue to have the Mana Leak for that Koth. So as long as Sullivan has the land, that Koth is almost assuredly coming down this turn and going to cause some problems. But I don't know if he has that land. I think it might be in play already if he did.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it.
And what did was that Baneslayer Angel he revealed? It was a white card.
I did not see.
Alright, so he takes 2 damage. So it looks like that Koth is not going to hit play, which is rough for Patrick. I'm sure he really wanted that land there. And here comes Spike Shot Elder.
Spike Shot Elder on the table.
Plays conservatively. So I know there's a Lightning Bolt in Patrick's hand, I believe. Although maybe, yeah, I see a Lightning Bolt, a Marking Mutiny, and a Koth. Does he have more than 3 cards? And
yeah, I think he has multiple bolts. Or he used one, right?
Yeah, he used one bolt on the Stoneforge Mystic, and he still has one in his hand. They're foil, so they're kind of easy to pick out. Yeah, I think he only has 3 cards, and it's Koth, Lightning Bolt, Marking Mutiny.
It's a pretty good combination of cards to have.
It's a great combination of cards, as long as he can find that. If he can stick that Koth. He was talking earlier about how Koth is so crucial, that you can just find a way to stick it. So missing that one turn is such an issue.
I think it's nice about playing Preordain against Goblin Guide decks. A lot of the time you can, you know, Preordain, leave a land on top, and then, you know, a red up. Yeah. And you get to draw the card off the guide and use your removal spell on it.
Absolutely.
It's a nice little play that I like to use a lot.
So instead of leaving Mana Leak up, Steven's like, alright, well, you didn't do anything last turn, so I'm not going to care anymore. I'm just going to cast the second Hawk. And now Patrick has another opportunity.
He really has to, you know.
Oh, that's a Scalding Tarn, I'm pretty
sure.
But
that's probably just going to do Steven. It's interesting, though. If Pat attacks with this guy's first, that might actually be the right play.
Because you think he'll block differently?
Well, I think he'll block both of them, and then Pat can stick a Koth, and then he has an unmolested
go
Koth.
ultimate. Yeah, that's totally true.
If he goes ultimate with Koth against Steve, that's it.
That's a pretty good point. I think it's a matter.
Like you can just play to that.
Right. I think it's a matter of if Patrick thinks he's going to play the long game here, grinding him out with the ultimate of Koth, or if he's just going to try and race him quickly. And that's what he's trying to figure out right now. He's clearly in the tank. He cracks both. Yep, he cracks both of his lands, and we're getting a pre-combat Koth here. So he's going to go pre-combat Koth, animate a mountain. Do you think he's going to serve him with that spike shot Elder or hold it back?
I don't know. It's a good question. The Elder's the only one that you're really not sure whether or not you want to swing with. Doing pretty well. Right now we're watching a match between Patrick Sullivan and Stephen Miggels. This is round 7, Star City Games Open Series. All right, Pat. Pumping up that Koth.
Puts that mountain.
Sending this into the red zone. All right, Drew Levin is joining us in the booth. So now it is me, Jacob Van Lunen, joined by Gavin and Drew.
Hey,
and we're covering the Star City Games Standard Open Series here in Edison, New Jersey. This is round 7. It's a feature match between Patrick Sullivan and Stephen Miggels. This game looks pretty good for Pat.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking pretty good. I mean, Game 1, Patrick really had, if Stephen didn't find, his one of Baneslayer Angel. So,
I mean, games where red's on the play, it's just really hard to get in the game.
Absolutely. Drew, real fast, what's your record so far?
I actually just picked up my the loss that knocked me out of the tournament to this insanely talented 12-year-old playing the mirror.
Playing the Cobblade mirror?
Cobblade with red mirror. I had the Mystic into Spark Mage into Linvala opener, and he basically, drew running Planeswalkers to knock me out of the tournament. It happens.
That's too bad. How are Jerry and AJ doing?
AJ's on table 1. He's playing against, I think, Rug at this point. Okay. Jerry's X2. And is, grinding out the last 4 rounds to, get his 3 points and his $50.
Fair enough.
Whereas I'm content to just, sit here, stare at a TV, and talk about Magic.
That's always a good place to be.
Yeah.
So back to the game. Looks like Patrick is, he's going to animate his land here again. And serve in. Steven's trying to put up a defense, but not doing a very good job. Well, it's too bad you got eliminated, Drew. It sounded for a while there like you were going to be at the, because he's somebody like
Mark
Jerry
in Pat's hand is really just going to close this out. Steve's going to play Steve's going to be forced to play the Baneslayer defensively, and it's just going to get marked and lethal him.
Right. He's going to try and close the game the same way he closed the last game with Baneslayer, and
it's not going to look too good for him post-board. Yeah, Carthage is borderline unbeatable for our deck.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking great here. He just managed to resolve it and then cause huge issues. Let's see. So he goes to the top of his deck. Okay. So in comes Baneslayer Angel. There it is.
Does Pat have Mark?
Yeah, he's got Mark in his hand. He's gonna bolt the Hawk.
Yeah, just for the Robins. And oh yes, there we go.
All right, and he concedes. I mean, it just makes things cleaner.
Yeah.
And all right, so they're on to game 3. And now the question is, so unfortunately for Patrick, he did have to show Steven that he boarded a Mark. So now there's the mind game of, well, he's going to keep Mark in, is he not? And yeah, Patrick goes to his sideboard.
I think that Pat has to keep Mark in, and Steven can cut his Baneslayer Angels, but the thing is, if Pat has Mark and Steven doesn't have Baneslayer Angel, Pat's probably winning anyway. So, having a card like Mark of Mutiny in your hand isn't necessarily bad unless you also don't have Koth, you don't have Goblin Guide, you don't have Spike Shot Elder.
Right.
In other words, unless you're already losing the game, in which case Mark of Mutiny isn't going to do anything except fog for a turn.
I mean, as someone who played the Cobblade deck today, has had a lot of experience with it, how do you feel this matchup is in general?
I think it really does come down to Koth, because obviously Red gains a lot of value from Cobblade wasting mana on equipment. The biggest thing about Cobblade is that the mana is actually more important than the cards. That's why Sword of Feast and Famine is so good, and that's why Squadron Hawk is very much an expendable card. You basically just use it as any other resource, except you almost always have more cards. What you don't always have is more mana. And so having yourself set up by, making equips and getting potentially blown out by Lightning Bolt, Burst Lightning, whatever, is a really bad situation. Whereas, getting your Squadron Hawk, Spike Shot Eldered is a problem, sure, but it's not a huge problem. Getting Time Walked repeatedly by all of their burn spells is a much bigger problem.
Absolutely. Man. So a lot of interesting things could be going on in the matchup then. Like, there's just...
I mean, does Pat have Hero of Oxidridge?
I'm unsure. We don't have the deck list for this round. We talked to him earlier. Yeah, those are old.
Darn.
Yeah. We don't have deck list for this round. So, it's unclear, but I don't think he does.
Yeah, he's probably just playing 4 Koth and topping out there.
And, let's see, players shuffling up.
Yeah, the reason why Cobblade is fine against Boros is that they just have to basically play a bunch of guys and play straight into your bolts, into your hawks, into your equipment, into basically all of your cards and how you gain value. If they're just playing a bunch of guys and they manage your life total very well, then you can't get that much value from your Day of Judgments and your Gideons. Eventually they can just dome you out. So... I assume a big part of this matchup will be minimizing the value of all of the sort of conditionally valuable cards in Steven's deck. A lot of this, I suppose, is really the Thinking Red Mage's game plan, which is exactly where Pat is the strongest.
So Steven presents, and Patrick still shuffling. Alright, and let's see what our openers look like. On Patrick's side of the screen, see Plated GOP, Teetering Peaks, a mount. That looks like 3 mountains, maybe.
Yeah, that looks like a pretty land-heavy hand, no?
Pretty land-heavy, but Patrick's keeping it. Oh, he draws Spike Shot Elder. Nice one.
Yeah, so, Squadron Hawk, maybe, one time? No, we have Stoneforge Mystic, okay.
And, do you think you board in Basilisk Caller in this matchup?
Yeah, definitely.
So do you think he's going to go get it here?
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean...
Sword of Feast and Famine. Last game he got the Body in Mind in the same situation, so it's interesting to see the switch up here.
I mean, the way that I've always done it is if I'm light on action, then I get Body in Mind. If I'm heavy on action, then I get Feast and Famine.
Right, I mean, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if you can play out more of your action with Feast and Famine, it's
right.
Huge.
And if I have Spark Mage, then I get Basilisk Collar, which of course is like playing with your hand up, but, at some point you just really want to assemble your Viscera. And we are getting in for 3 on Pat's side of the board. Yeah, Bolting Mystic is just a huge part of why Cobblade with red is so good, is because the ability to have an uncounterable sword that you flash in for 2 mana is absolutely tremendous in terms of how it swings the game. Because you get to leave your mana up, you get to put the sword on the table, and presumably you get to equip it, because in the old blue-white mirror, they had like oust, they didn't, Path to Exile rotated all of that. So if you get the sword in, you're going to get to equip and you're going to get to attack with it, which is actually pretty insane in terms of the time it buys you.
So Steven has Spark Mage this time, and so we've seen Patrick kill off the Stoneforge Mystic in all 3 games now, and it seems so important to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And now Patrick lost his Elder, which he gracefully ripped, and he has to figure out a new plan. How's he going to deal with that Cunning Spark Mage? Ironically, Mark of Mutiny does not kill Cunning Spark Mage.
Yeah, that's a little awkward.
Ember Hauler.
Yeah, Ember Hauler is great. So Pat was actually talking to me a couple rounds ago, and he was talking about how some guy played Sun Titan and, was doing all sorts of disgusting things. And Ember Hauler is the guy's Stoneforge Mystic, untaps, Mark of Mutiny is the guy's Sun Titan, returns Ember Hauler and exactsies him.
Wow. That's pretty nice. So he ends up using the Ember Hauler just as a way to get that Cunning Spark Mage out of there as Steven deploys his Sword of Feast of Famine. Oh, is this Koth?
And Koth.
Yeah.
Bang. Okay, this is looking real bad for Steven all of a sudden.
Yeah. So that Koth is out there. Now Steven has to find a way to deal with it. He's got very little board presence. That Colonnade next turn. Oh, well.
And he's at 12.
There's a Mark of Mutiny in his hands. All right, so he marks Baneslayer.
So he's going to put him on 2.
And Burst Lightning.
And he's dead. You're dead. 6 from Baneslayer, 4 from the Mountain, 2 from Burst Lightning, and that is...
Wow. Wow, what a close game. Like, I mean, it doesn't look that close as how it finished, but like one turn either way and the game entirely changes.
Yes. Wow.